It's time for Ultimate Options. We're going to do order entry today. It's awesome to have you with Corey and I. And Corey, thanks for hopping in as always, my friend.
Oh, I'm having so much fun with these. Thanks for having me.
So I'll tell you what, you and I have done, I'll bet, two or three little videos on order entry that we've kind of put out there once or twice. But I'll tell you, this one's going to be the best one we've ever done. It's going to be the most detailed. It's just going to be thorough, and people are going to get a good idea of how to do order entry. It's an important skill, and like I've said before, I recommend the wax on, wax off Mr. Miyagi technique here because once you learn something, that's one thing, but practicing it is another. What do you have to say about practicing order entry?
Yeah, I mean, it's crucial that you paper trade first. It's so important that you're not making, because order entry is just a skill that once you've learned it, you kind of take it for granted, right? It's like riding a bike. Once you learn it, it's with you always. But initially, there's a few different order types and there's a few different things that you can do in order entry. And so it's important that you're practice trading so that you really get the hang of it. You know, it's kind of like training wheels, right?
Yep.
Before we take off the training wheels, let's make sure we know what we're doing. And that's how I view order entry. Once you get the hang of it, it's actually very simple and it's easy to do, but make sure that you practice trade it first.
My challenge and invitation to you is this: after we finish this session, take 1 week of your life and dedicate it to order entry and put in two or three new orders every day. Don't worry so much about trying to find stocks to make money with in your paper trading right now or options. We're going to go through 7 basic positions, and my challenge is to do two or three of each of those basic positions every single day. Now, every time we get when we get into more specific strategies, we're going to do order entry as part of every single segment. So don't freak out if you don't know how to put an inverted diagonalized iron condor or something right now. Just relax. We're going to do the basic 6 or 7 positions. We're going to rock and roll. Let's do our disclaimer quick. You guys have seen this probably a thousand times if you've followed us, but it just reminds everyone two things: that Corey and I, while Corey has worked as an option principal and he's, had all these licenses and everything, in this role, we're strictly education. We wouldn't want anyone to misconstrue that we're recommending a certain strategy over another. And then also, investing in trading securities has risk to it. And one of the risks we'll highlight among so many today is something called a pilot error. You can actually lose money by simply making a pilot error. So we're going to hop in with that. And here we got our 4 pillars, Corey. And let's just divide this and remind everyone this way. This is about getting information. Okay, this is info only. We're going to learn here about the company and how well it's doing. We're going to learn here about the supply and demand and the stock chart and the trend, right? But there's really nothing I can do unless, I don't know, Corey. I mean, if my wife goes out and shops at Nordstrom enough, that might make their fundamentals go up. But even that way,
Yeah.
I don't know if I can
You have
raise
enough
that.
pull
Yeah, exactly. I buy a lot of Apple stuff, iTunes and stuff, but I don't know if I can really affect the fundamentals. And of course,
just a drop in the bucket, right?
you and I don't usually trade in volumes. I mean, maybe Warren Buffett could move a market technically. Maybe he's big enough; he might be able to do it. But even he, couldn't consistently drive something up every single day. So we don't have any control over this. And that's part of the risk that's there. We have no control. We can only get information here. On this side is where we take action. And this is the side where we can have some choices and we can control. For example, I can't control or choose whether the market goes up or down, but I can choose whether I want to be long or whether I want to be short. I can't choose whether the fundamentals do well or not, but I can be in a long position, a short position. So in order to get cash flow and do what we call taking a position, is we need to understand what positions are available and how to make money on this data. And when we go for cash flow and risk management, these overlap a little bit, this is what we call our position. And we get into positions and out of positions. In other words, the thing I can control is my position. It's very important. Corey, what would you have to say about that?
Yeah, I mean, that is where we have control, and you as the trader are in control of all of that. You get to decide when you enter, what price you want to pay, when you exit, how much time you buy to expiration, what type of order you're going to use. So a lot of the things we're talking about today are just to that point, that's the stuff that we can control. We get to control how much risk we take in a trade. And so this actually is very, I think, liberating for people, and it kind of
Yes.
calms your fears, because you go in and when you kind of think in the grand scheme of things, we have control over all of that. We get to control how much money I'm willing to risk. So if I say I'm only willing to lose $50 in this trade, I can lose $50. If I'm willing to risk $500, I can risk $500, and
Yep.
I control all of that with my orders. So you have complete control over your money and what you're doing with it.
So we're going to have many different types of positions, but you'll find that all the positions we end up in are going to be some combination of being long a stock, short a stock, long a call, short a call, in cash, or long a put and short a put. And so we must be able to communicate this to the brokerage. And Corey had a great analogy that that I think is wonderful is, the market is a lot like eBay, where we have buyers demanding things and sellers supplying things. And so one of the things we do if we want to be an eBay person is we're going to learn how to do this. And I've never sold anything on eBay in my life. Okay. I'm not kidding, Corey. I've bought things on eBay before, but I've never sold anything on eBay in my whole entire life. But if I wanted to buy something, I think I'd be pretty straightforward. What do you want to buy, Corey?
Yeah, let's go buy an Apple product. How about what are laptops going for, maybe,
yeah,
or something?
yeah, something like that. Maybe we could buy like an old iPhone, like an ancient iPhone, okay?
There you
And
go.
here we go, and now here's an old iPhone 8, and I could click on this, and I could buy it. But I can also sell things if I want to make money. I've never done this before in my life. I'm totally flying blind here. And so I thought, and I would never sell this in my entire existence. I would never sell this. But I have, I'm a John Stockton fan. I think he's the player that all young players should seek to model their game after. He was in the bottom quartile of athletic ability in the NBA, but yet, first in assists and steals. And I have, believe it or not, my business partner gave me this for my birthday. Mike did. He gave me a John Stockton autograph. How do you spell autographed basketball?
GRAF.
Autograph.
Yep,
I
there
don't
you
know
go.
how to spell it.
GRAPED.
Basketball.
There you
Okay.
go.
And I hit go. Let's see what happens. So this would probably be a collectible, I'd imagine. So I'll hit that. And, I just got to figure this out. Okay. That looks good to me. And so, yeah, we'll just go with collectible. We'll just say that's it. So I have to figure out how to navigate this. Go. Okay. So that sounds good to me. And look at this. Here's a bunch of them. Got it. So here's a bunch of them for sale right here. And sell one like this. So this is kind of like the one I have right here. And I've never done this before. I literally thought I'd do this live just to see. Okay, a lot of photos. I did prepare a photo of this, so I'll drop it in there and see if it works. And then I have to do, it looks like a description. So I says, this is a really cool ball. Cool Abel.
Yeah.
Cool ball. And my pricing, I got to figure out. Now, this is interesting. The lowest amount I'm willing to take, that's kind of like a limit order, isn't it? So I
That
need to
is.
have a limit. I need to have a limit on what I'm going to do here. So I don't know what they're going for, but I wouldn't part for this. I mean, I wouldn't part with it all, but I'll say $500. And if they want to buy it now for 600, more power to them. Shipping, whatever, I don't care. And then I list it. So let's preview it. Notice it's going to give me a chance to preview this of what it would look like before I actually list it. And there I've sold something. Follow? So, the reason I went through this, having never done it before, I guess this would do it. I don't know. But it's no different in the stock market. I mean, we can buy and sell things in the stock market, and we're going to use brokerages and market makers to help us instead of eBay. So just as I had to learn how to sell my basketball, which I never would in a million freaking years. I mean, if there's a fire in my house, I'd say, sweetheart.
Wife, kids, John Stockton basketball.
You really think that's the priority, Corey? You really think that it's going to – I mean, I don't know. Let's see. Get Zach and David out or the basketball? I guess I'll go with Zach and David. Yeah, I think I like them more. But that's it. And so this is called order entry. And what I did on eBay, we're just going to get rid of that because there's no way I'm selling that ball. If we do that on eBay, we can also do this here. So let's keep in mind this. Remember, we did a section where we talked about the market maker and how he could create puts and calls for us to sell to each other. And so if you're still unclear on open interest and volume, I highly recommend that you review that section, because the more you understand how this market maker works, you'll be less confused or not confused when we go in puts and calls. So let's start here. In order to understand order entry, we have to understand what positions we're going to take, right, Corey?
Yep, absolutely.
I mean, if we don't know what position we want to be in, how can we even communicate that to the brokerage, what we want to do in the first place, right?
Yeah, I loved your eBay analogy where you show that you could be the buyer or the seller,
yep.
And there were a number of different things that you can do there. You can set limits on the prices and so on. So the first thing in trading is we need to know what position we want.
Yeah.
Are we bullish or bearish? And that means our expectations on the stock. Now, we're not going to focus a lot on why we're bullish or bearish, but each of these would allow you to get that positioning, right? You could have an expectation where you think, you know what, it's just not going to go up very much. And so there are ways to profit from a stock that's not going to go up very much. Whereas another trade, you find something that's going to go up a lot. And so you'd position differently based on those expectations.
So we're going to go through each of these twice. And again, I always go back to Mr. Miyagi. It's my favorite one where Daniel-san is kind of impatient. He wants to punch and kick. And Mr. Miyagi says, no, wax on, wax off. You'll get there. So we're actually going to do all of these twice, Corey. We're going to understand the position once, and then we're going to do it with an order entry ticket each time. So let's get rid of this. And let's bring out a financial statement, and let's bring out a picture of you, okay? And we'll just call this you, me, and Corey, all three of us, right? We're all here. This represents our balance sheet. So let's bring this down here, and this will represent other parties. And if we need a brokerage, we'll build one, and all this type of stuff. So the first position that I would say would be called a cash position. And there's really no interaction here. And what it looks like to be in cash is you have cash in your asset column. So of the 7 positions that we talked about, that's what a cash position looks like. So we could put a little check mark on a cash position. It means that you've positioned yourself in cash, that you have some cash in your asset column. So I might say, Corey, how big is your cash position? And you say, I've got $100 million, right, Corey? Maybe not that much. But yeah, we've got a cash position. How large is your cash position? And so we could say that. So pretty straightforward. What are the risks of a cash position is inflation. That's the biggest risk of the biggest risk probably of a cash position is, my gosh, there's inflation. I can't buy as much with my cash. There's risk there in my cash position. Okay, so that one's pretty easy. Now, the next one that we can be in is called long stock. And the way long means that we own the stock. So let's say that this guy over here has some stock. He's holding it there for us. And this is really what we're saying here. We say, I want to buy, and we'll get into buy to open a little bit later. I want to buy some stock. And so what we do is we take the cash that we had here and we make an exchange on the New York Stock Exchange, or we make a trade. So just like you were, having, you'd go to lunch in school and you'd look at your buddy and say, hey, I got a bologna sandwich. And Corey says, gee, I like bologna. I got a peanut butter and honey sandwich. And I said, shoot, I'd rather have peanut butter and honey over bologna any day. And so I make a trade. And that's why they call us stock traders, is because we make trades or exchanges on a New York Stock Exchange. So this guy says, I want to buy stock. And this guy over here says, well, guess what? I want to sell stock. I want to sell my stock. And that's just like eBay, isn't it, Corey? I mean, it's a match made in heaven. It's a match made in heaven. And so someone at the brokerage will make that trade for us to where we say, all right, I will give you my cash. And now I have a stock position that's called long stock. And now my asset column has some stock in it. So I might say, well, how large of a stock position do you have? Or how many stock positions do you have right now? And Corey might say, gee, I only have like 5 stock positions. All the others are options. And I have a huge cash position right now, right? But this is what a stock position would look like, right, Corey?
That's right. And in terms of this trade, you'll hear the word long and short a lot. Long stock, of course, is buying stock. So it just means you bought it. Another way of saying that is when you're long something, you want the value to go up. So whenever we say that we're buying stock, we're long stock there, we own the stock, that all means the same thing. We bought 100 shares of XYZ or whatever it is.
So later on, what we're going to do is we're going to do this again. This is the first time to understand the position. Then we're going to do it again and show you how you communicate that to the brokerage. But I feel like for someone who's new and not done this a lot, it's best to just understand the position first. Then we'll go back. We'll get it again. So that's long stock. Okay, so let's get rid of this and start over again. Okay, let's start over again. And let's do the next position, which is called short stock. Now, this is a little bit more involved. And even though this is an options course, and not a stock course, we want to know how to short stock. We definitely want to know how to do this. So the way this is work is we bring in a brokerage, and there's 2 steps to this. Two steps to this. Right here, instead of this person having stock and us buying the stock, we're actually going to sell some stock at the beginning of our transaction. Okay, we're going to sell some stock at the beginning of our transaction. So there's going to be really 2 steps that happen in one. If I say I want to short stock, okay, so let's put this back up here. The brokerage has the stock. Let's say I want to short, let's write it all out. I want to short some stock. And what that tells the brokerage is there's going to be 2 steps to this. The first step is I'm going to borrow some shares. So I'm going to be making a promise to the brokerage to give their shares back to them. So I'm going to borrow the shares. Okay, so watch this. So for like 1 millisecond, the stock will be in my hands, right? And then what happens is immediately the brokerage will sell the shares to someone who says, I want shares. I want to buy stock. So in the last example, we had a guy that wanted to sell his stock. In this case, this guy want to buy stock, and they match us up. And this guy, since he wants to buy stock, he's got cash in his hand. So it starts out like this: the brokerage has stock, this guy has cash. I borrow the stock, and then we trade it. So watch this. He's going to give me some cash that'll provide me some income, and then I'm going to give him my stock. And hopefully, we'll talk about getting out of this later. But now, what I would hope is, since I have borrowed some shares, I would hope this stock goes down this time. Because if I borrow it and sell it to this guy, let's say he gives me $100 for this stock that I just sold him, that I borrowed from the brokerage. Let's say he gives me $100 for that, and that comes in. Well, to undo this trade, if the stock falls, then I can buy back that stock maybe for $50, right? And I only give him $50 in cash, right? Get my stock back. So now I give this guy what? $50, right? So now I have $50 left now. I gave him $50. I have the stock back, and I can return the stock to the brokerage. We'll talk about how to communicate all this in just a moment. So let's see if we can do this one more time. Is this guy, I want to be short stock. This guy has cash to buy stock, and the brokerage is willing to loan me some stock. So I borrow some stock. This guy gives me his cash, and I give him the stock that I borrowed. I'm going to have to undo that, hopefully at a lower price. Anything you want to say on that, Corey? That's what a short position looks like.
Yeah, this is a great understanding of kind of the back end of it, how it works. And it's very important that you understand kind of the inner workings, that you actually owe the shares. And so you have to buy them back at some point, because when you borrow something, what that means is you're going to repay it, right? So if I borrow 100 shares from you, Andy, I have to pay you back 100 shares. Now, I might be able to go buy them somewhere else cheaper and then return them to you, but I have to pay back what I borrowed. So that's kind of the behind the scenes, how this works. The really good news is that you don't need to do anything with all that. You don't have to do a lot of things. All you do is click the button that says, I want to short the stock, and you will enter a short stock position. So you don't have to fill out paperwork that says, I'm going to borrow this for X amount of time and yada, yada, yada. It's just as simple as, once you're set up to do it, you can just click the mouse and you're shorting stock. It's as easy to do as buying stock. So
it is.
But still very important to understand kind of the back end of it. We borrowed the shares. We will have to repay them at some point in the future.
No question. I have this saying that says, make a promise, get paid. And almost every time you make a promise, cash will come to you, right? Cash will come to you. So notice, in a short stock position, I don't own any stock, right? This guy owns the stock. A short position means I owe the brokerage some stock. And eventually, I'm going to have to buy this stock back and unwind this trade, is what we would call it. Unwind it. We'd have to put it back. So in this case, again, I borrowed some stock. I sold it to this guy for cash, and now I'm hoping the stock will go down so I can buy back the stock. And this guy has my stock. I hope it will go down so I can buy back the stock and then return it to the brokerage. So just one more time, I borrow the stock. I sell it to this guy for cash. I hope the stock goes down. Then I buy the stock back and return it to the brokerage. That's getting into a short position and out of a short stock position. So pretty good. Let's get rid of our brokerage.
And like we said, long means you want the value to go up. Short means you want the value of that thing to go down. So when you're short stock, simple, easy way to remember it, we want the value to drop. When we're long stock, we want the value to rise.
100%. So, and just remember that the market maker can create these options and get rid of these options. And it's very important that if you don't remember very well the idea of open interest that we covered in a previous session, go back and review. That's why we do it, okay? Go back and make sure you get around your head that this market maker can create or invent calls and destroy calls. It's called the open interest. And this will make a lot better sense if a person's reviewed that section, if you want to know what goes on behind the scenes. So with that, let's look at the next position, which would be a long call, right, Corey? A long call. And so I would have some cash here. I would start with some cash that I have. And this guy, we got our market maker up here. And watch this. Watch this. This guy right here is starting by saying, I want to sell a call option. I want to sell a call. And so maybe the open interest isn't very big, and the market maker says, okay, I will create this call for you to sell. And so he will sell me this call, and I will pay him some cash, and we make that trade right there. So right here, I now own a call. I own a call option. It's actually an asset. It's something that I own. It gives me the right. It gives me the right to buy a stock at a set price. And if the stock goes up, the value of this call will go up. If the stock goes down, the value of this call will go down, and my net worth will go up and down based on whether or not this call goes up or down, just like a stock would go up or down. Just like a stock would go up or down. So let's review that again. Is this, let's say we have some cash here. We start in a cash position, and we say to ourselves, I want to own a call, which really means what? I want the choice to buy at a certain price, to buy stock at a set price on or before expiration. That's really what I want. So this guy over here says, yeah, I'd like to sell a call. He says, I want to make this promise. I want to sell this call option. I want to sell a call. And so the market maker says, okay, I will arrange this for you. Here's the call. Okay, I give this guy some cash, and he gives me the call option over here in my asset column. Any comments on the long call, Corey?
Yeah, I love the analogy of doing this, because it doesn't matter how long you've been involved in the markets. When you really simplify things down, that's the best approach. Just keep it simple, KISS, keep it simple, stupid, right?
Yep, exactly.
So if we want to get into a long call, we're saying, I find this call option more valuable than the cash that I hold.
Yep.
That's what a trade is. I'm trading out of cash and into something else. And in this case, I think a call option is the way to go. The market will provide that, right? We can go to the market and we can be a buyer, we can be a seller of any of these things we're talking about. We can buy or sell stock. We can buy or sell calls. We can buy or sell puts. We can just simply stay in cash.
That's exactly right.
In this case, we want the call option. We find it more valuable than the cash we have sitting there. And we're going to put some of our cash into that call option, because obviously in this case, we think we're long. So that means we think the value is going to go up. Yep. We're going to buy that call. We're going to go long it because we think we're going to be able to sell it at a future date for more than what we're paying for it today.
I love how Corey said, I'd rather have the call than cash. It's no different than me saying I'd rather have cash than my John Stockton basketball, or I'd rather have your peanut butter and honey sandwich than my bologna sandwich. And so I'm just making trades on what I think will be the best for me. So I say again, this guy wants to sell a call. So the market maker, it's called writing a call. He creates the call, allows that guy to make that promise. We give him some cash. He gives us our call option. And now we're in a long call position, which really just means we own a call option. And I might say, how big is your call option position, Corey? He says, oh, I've got 10 contracts, or I have 30 contracts, or I have 2 contracts, right? That tells me I'm in a call position. Okay, very, very simple. Okay, the next one, we're darn near halfway there, bud. I think we are. I think we're pretty much halfway there now. We want to have a short call now. Okay, so watch what this is gonna watch what this is gonna do here. This is really cool. Maybe I want to sell a call, and remember, make a promise. Make a promise. Watch this. Equals getting paid, baby. Make a promise. Click. Get paid. So let's say that I want to make this promise here. And so I say, I promise to sell, XYZ stock. I promise to sell XYZ stock at a set price before expiration. That's the promise I make. And so the market maker says, all right, Andy, we'll write the call, and you can give that call to this guy that wants it, and he will give you this cash. And that's new income, dude. That's awesome stuff. So this guy is basically saying, I want the choice to buy XYZ stock at a set price that we agree on. And if you are unfamiliar with that, go back and review our strike price section, right? The class we did on strike price. So that's it, right? That's it.
Yeah,
that is it.
Now remember, the names on these tell you about your outlook. So you're short the call. When you're short something, you think the value is going to drop. So of course, in this scenario, we think we're getting paid more cash today, and that's why we're willing to make this promise, because we believe that we will either be able to buy it back at a future date for less, kind of like shorting stock, right? We're going to buy it back for less, or maybe we think this call is just going to expire and we'll get to keep all of the cash. And it's very much when you're selling options and making promises, it's very similar to insurance. It's just basically saying, I'm willing to collect this premium and insure someone against something else, right? And so I have certain risks and rewards with that. Make a promise, get paid. We get cash in. Now, we have to fulfill our promise one way or the other. We can buy our way out of the promise at a future date. We can, if the promise expires, that's great for us, but we're collecting the cash, and then it comes with a promise being attached to that. So very cool stuff.
One thing that you'd want to keep in mind is really to if we wanted to get technical about this, is in order to keep the promise. In other words, we're promising to sell some stock. There's 2 things that could happen here. We could either own this stock right now and have a stock position. The idea with being short a call is, can you keep your promise? So there's 2 ways you could do it. You say, well, I already have the stock. So if this guy wants me to keep the promise, I could sell the stock to him. Another way you could do it is say, well, I don't own the stock, but I have enough cash that I could buy it any time I wanted to. And so I could say, all right, you want me to keep that promise? Great. I have the cash to buy the stock, and now I can sell that stock to you. So this is a great way to make money, even without having to own the stock. You can actually just have the cash to buy the stock if you wanted to. It's very risky because that's called a naked call. If I'm just doing this with cash and that stock goes up big time, I might have to spend a lot of cash to be able to buy that stock to sell it to him, because I've really made a promise to sell stock. So the important thing about these positions is to know what you own and what promises you made. We're going to do this all again. We're going to do this twice for each one. But it's important to know that when you are long, you can be long the stock, you hope the stock goes up. You can be long the call, you hope the call goes up. You can be long the put, you hope the put goes up. But when you're short, you've made promises. When you're short stock, you've promised to give the stock back to the brokerage. That's not good if the stock goes up. If you're short a call, right, you've promised to sell your stock. So you hope the stock would go, down or at least sideways, probably that way.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
that is shorting stock.
Yeah, your broker is going to make sure when you make a promise that you can deliver on that promise, right? And so to go back to your John Stockton analogy, he would always pass it to Carl Malone because the mailman delivered.
That's
right,
baby.
With the call options, we can sell a call. We just have to be able to deliver on our promise, and we can deliver stock if we have stock in our account. If we don't have the stock and we have to deliver, then we could have the cash there to be able to buy the stock and so forth. But we have to deliver on those promises like the mailman.
100%. Okay, so the next one is maybe this guy right here. We think a stock is going down. So we say, look, I want the choice. I want the choice to sell a stock, and I might own the stock, I might not. I want to sell the stock at a set price. Okay, and another word for choice is option, right? I want to do this at a set price. This guy says, hey, I'd love to make that promise. He says, I want to make that promise. I want to get paid. I want to promise to buy. Warren Buffett does this all the time. To buy the stock at a set price. Right in here. This set price right here. And so really what this guy says in summary is, look, I want to sell a put. And this guy over here, you and I, we're saying, hey, I want to buy a put. Again, we have, just like the eBay, you have the buyers and you have the sellers. So if I want to buy a put, what that means is I'm going to begin with cash. I have some cash. The market maker says, oh, you want to write a put? Okay, I'll create that put contract and you can now sell it. So watch this trade. I will give him the cash. He will give me the put option. And now I have the ability to sell that sell that stock anytime I want at that price. So that means I own a put, which means I have a choice, right? I have this choice to sell my stock. So owning a put. So that's called a long put position. I own the put. I have this very valuable contract, this very valuable choice. And if the stock goes down, the value of this put goes up. And so understanding these positions is a huge thing if we're going to do order entry, because how do you enter an order if you don't understand the position? Right, Corey?
That's right. Yep. And so the long put, you want the put value to go up. When you're long, when you're buying something, you want its value to go up. And of course, a put goes up in value as the stock goes down. Perfect.
Now, let's do I think this is the last one, isn't it? We've done cash. We've done long stock, short stock, long call, long put,
short call.
Yep. And so the last one, of the basic positions is a short put. And so we say, well, what do we want to do? We say, we want to get paid. We say, I want to make a promise here, right? And if I'm short a put, what's my promise, Corey? I promise to what?
To buy the stock. Yep.
To buy stock. And Warren Buffett does this all the time. Okay, I promise to buy stock at a set price for this guy. And so
what's really cool about this is we're making a promise. If we wanted to go buy the stock today at current prices, we can actually promise to buy it at a later date at even lower prices and get paid money to do it. And that's why Warren Buffett likes it. He gets paid those premiums. And that's why he's an insurance guy. He wants to bring in cash constantly. And that's what we're going to do here. We're going to make a promise to buy the stock at a set price at a future date. And someone's going to pay us money for that promise.
This guy right here, he says, look, I want the choice. right? I want the choice to what? If he wants a put, he wants to be able to sell
To be able to sell. Yep.
at a set price. And he's willing to pay us some money to do that. So the market maker says, all right, I'll write this, we'll write an option, and now we're going to make this trade. So he will give us the cash for income. We will give him his put, and we're now in a short put position, which means what? We have made a promise to buy stock. Well, if we've made a promise to buy stock, guess what we probably need to have in our account? We need to have some cash to keep that promise. So you'll notice that when we are short, we're really in a cash position also. A cash position plus a promise, okay? Now, we're going to do this. This is going to make this really simple, okay? And we're going to talk about peanut butter sandwiches and bologna sandwiches, and we're going to talk about eBay, okay? So one last time, if I want to be long stock, then I have some cash, this guy has some stock, and we make this trade. So in this case, I am the buyer because I'm going to spend cash, and this guy is the seller because he's going to give me stock. Take a picture of that in your brain and see that. This guy is the buyer because he's going to send cash this way. This guy is the seller because he's going to send stock this way. When that trade is finished, I give you my bologna for your peanut butter and honey. I now am long the stock. I have the stock in there. Okay? So we want to be very, very clear on who the buyer and the seller is each and every time. Okay, the short stock works like this. This guy has some cash. I have borrowed some stock from the brokerage. So now I have some stock in my hand. And in this case, now I am the seller of the stock. And this guy is the buyer of the stock. He's going to give me his cash. I'm going to give him the stock that I borrowed. Once that trade happens, boom, boom,
Hey,
I
Andy,
am now
change
in a
that to short stock.
Oh, excuse me.
Change that.
I got
Yep.
the wrong one. You know what?
Just the label.
You know
Only
what?
the label is all.
I'm going to do that whole thing over.
Well, you could just start it right from the short
Yep.
stock. Yeah.
Yep. So we're gonna come up. Now we're gonna do short stocks. So we're gonna need a brokerage here. So, and we're doing this just to identify who is the buyer and who is the seller. Okay, remember, this is us. So in this case, this guy has some cash, and let's see, we borrow some stock from the brokerage. We borrow stock from the brokerage, and so now we are the seller, and this guy is the buyer. He is going to give us cash. We are going to trade the stock. You know, we don't want the bologna sandwich. We want our peanut butter. So as soon as this is done, as soon as we give him the stock and he gives us the cash, we're now in a short position. It's very key to understand the buyer and the seller. Let's get rid of our brokerage. Okay, the next one is long call. Is that right? So we got to find long call. This guy has a call. We have some cash. So in this case, we are the what? The buyer, because we're going to spend money on something. This guy, if this were on eBay, he would be the seller, and he would be selling the call. We'd be buying the call. The moment that transaction takes place, we are now in a long call position. Very simple. We're just doing this one more time for buyers and sellers. The short call. Okay, this guy has some cash. We have a call option. In this case, we are the seller, and this guy is the buyer. He's going to give us the cash. we're going to get the call that we got from the brokerage or from the market maker. And the moment we make that transaction, he gives us this cash, and he now has the call. We're in a short call position. We've made some promises. So we're just doing this with buyer and seller. And then what's the next one that we have, Corey?
So long put.
Long put. So here we have the long put. So this guy has a put that he got from the market maker. We have some cash. So we are the buyer, and he is the seller. We're going to send our cash this way. He's going to send the put that way. And the moment this transaction happens, we are now long a put. We have a put. And let's see, what else we got? Short put.
And then the last one is short put. Yep.
Yep, short put. That means that the market maker wrote a put for us to sell. This guy has some cash. So in this case, we start this trade by being the seller, and this guy starts the trade by being the buyer. We're going to sell this put to him. He's going to send cash to us. The moment that transaction happens, we're now short this put because we've made this guy some promises with this contract. Now, I know that was a little longer, and I encourage you to review that over and over and over again until you got that thing down like the back of your own hand. Like you really catch it, you really understood it. And what happens here is you'll notice that there was an opening of the position. So we focused mostly on the opening of a position. And the most correct way to really look at this is to say, look, this is really about positioning, okay? What position do I want to be in? You know, this is just information only. That's all it is. But over here, I'm saying, what position do I really want to be in? So I need to be able to get into a position, and I need to be able to get out of positions. And that is where my control comes from, is I can get in and I can get out. A 401k guy doesn't get in and out. He just gets in, and he stays in. But we can get in and we can get out, either to take cash or manage our risk. So think of it that way. We get into positions, we get out of positions. And in trader speak, there's various ways we communicate this. I might say, hey, Corey, I'm going to put on a trade. That means I'm getting into a position. Or I'm saying, Corey, I think I'm going to take that trade off the table. This is where trade becomes a noun instead of a verb, right? I'm going to put on this trade, I'm going to take off this trade, or I'm going to enter the trade, or I'm going to exit the trade. I'm going to open a position, I'm going to close a position. I look at my 4 pillars, I say based on the fundamental analysis I like it, based on the technical analysis I like it, I'm going to open a long position on maybe the stock, okay? Or maybe I look at the fundamentals and the technicals and I say these don't look too good, so I am going to open a short position on the stock. Or maybe I'll buy a put option. Okay. Excuse me. So very, very important stuff. Now, let's go to this. So we got to learn some things right here, okay? We got to learn some things. There are 4 important phrases. They're not really terms, but I'm putting them in our dictionary, is how we open and close a trade. You'll notice that in each of those instances, I was either the buyer or I was the seller, right? So at the beginning of the trade, if I am the seller at the beginning of this trade, at the start, at the open of the trade, if I'm beginning as the seller and this guy over here is beginning of the buyer, so this is you, right? And this is them, you know, some other guy. If you are the seller, when you begin, we tell the brokerage, this is how we communicate in order entry. We say, I want to sell to open the trade. In other words, I want to be the seller when I open this trade, okay? So if we open and begin this position, if we establish the position by being a seller, we will use the phrase sell to open. Anything you want to say about that, Corey? That's pretty self-explanatory.
Yeah, when you think about the to open or to close a transaction, if you don't have the position in your account right now, it's always to open. That's the starting gate, right? So any opening transaction, I mean, if I go out and buy some stock that I don't already own, then I'm opening that up. If I go out and buy a put or whatever, I can open that up. Well, I can sell to open as well. And a great analogy of that is our covered call example. If we own stock, we've already opened a position in the stock, but could we open a position by selling something in the options market? Can we say, well, I want to generate some capital on this stock? And so we're just accessing the market. We're saying somebody out there is willing to buy a call on my stock. I want to generate some income. I don't think the stock's going up too much. So I'm going to go out and I'm going to sell to open a call option against the stock that I own so I can generate some cash flow. Okay. Why is that to open? You already had the stock, but you don't have the call. The call is a new position that's just coming into your account. So anytime it's a new asset, whether it be a call, a put, or a stock, it's to open. And can we sell it or buy it? Yes. In this case, we want to sell to open. We want to sell a new contract, and that's a brand new trade.
So on eBay, the way I would say it if I were on eBay is I want to say, look, I'm going to open up a position on eBay where I want to be a seller to start with. I have this basketball right here. This guy has some cash right here. He wants to be a buyer. I want to be a seller. We're going to open our business together. I'm going to begin the transaction where I am the seller. So sell to open means that I am the seller, right? You're the seller if you sell to open. Now, if you want to unwind that trade, let's say that you sold a call and you change your mind. You change your mind. Well, then you have to buy back whatever it is you sold. So to close a transaction where you started as the seller, you must now become the buyer, and someone else must be the seller. And he says, I will sell that basketball back to you, right? I will sell that basketball back to you. I might not give you the price that you want, but I say, hey, I want my basketball back. And so I buy that ball back. I'm a buyer to get out. If I don't like the promise, generally, when we sell to open, it means we're making a promise. When we buy to close, it means, hey, I want to get out of that promise. I got to buy that contract back. And so we open as a seller, right? And we close as a buyer. If we open as a seller, we must close as a buyer if we want to get out of that position. Open as a seller, okay? We want to buy to close it, okay? Close as a buyer. Okay, now the same is just the opposite. I might want to buy to open. I might want to say, look, I want to buy stock. And this guy says, I want to sell stock, or I want to buy a call, or I want to buy a put. So I would buy to open the transaction, and then I would sell to close. Now, the best way to really get good at this is not to listen to Corey and I explain it, time after time. Best way is to open up your paper trade account, as Corey said, and just go ahead and do it. Practice it.
Practice. Yep.
Practice it. And we're going to do this here in just a bit. Now, as we went to eBay to buy and sell everything, right? I might have gone to, BZID or whatever it is. I might have gone to, there are other sites other than eBay. And depending on the site, I'd have to choose and learn about their interface. Well, the same is true with stocks. is, automakers will lay out information in many different ways. Same information. For example, here's a car, and I can see right here, there's a clock. This tells me what time of day it is. Isn't that nice, having a clock? And here in a Tesla, if you see it really tiny right there, if I were to blow that up, it gives me the time right here. So I have the same information, time of day, and here I have time of day. Same information. Right here is tells me my speed. Right here tells me my speed. Guess what? Right here tells me my speed. And so does it really matter what brand of car I buy? No, it's going to give me the same information. It's going to give me the same stuff. Right here's a fuel gauge that says, hey, you're almost on empty right here. So this tells me the amount of fuel I have. Well, guess what? There's probably a fuel gauge somewhere in this Tesla that's telling me. So it's really about learning how to drive, not so much the car you pick. Well, the same is true that brokerages will lay out stuff. It might look a little different on your phone to make an order than it does on your PC. And it might be different with Interactive Brokers, say, than with Thinkorswim. But the information will always be the same. So don't feel intimidated by switching brokerages or looking for brokerage. Know that they're going to be asking for the same information. It might just be displayed or described in a different way. Anything you want to say about that, Corey?
Yeah, I mean, some people swear by Ford over, Chevy or whatever.
It's a fist fight. It's a fist fight.
Yeah.
Who's better?
And some people swear by their brokerage, or say, I had a terrible experience with this one, but I love this one. You're going to get a variety of different opinions, but a brokerage is just like a bank. If you bank with Chase or you bank with Bank of America or Wells Fargo, there's not that much difference. And it's kind of the same way with brokerages. You're going to find some things that you like and maybe some things that you dislike. And you can have accounts with multiple brokerages if you want. The important thing is whoever you're with, get into their paper trading platform, because that paper trading account is going to use their software. So it's going to be the way you're going to be trading live. So if I open an account with Thinkorswim, I'm going to paper trade on their platform, and it's going to get me familiar with how their system works. If I open an account with Interactive Brokers, I use their paper trading demo platform for a little while. Now I know how their regular platform works. And so The important part to me is get in there and paper trade, and you'll become familiar with that brokerage. And if you say, you know what, I don't like this, you can always switch. Just as easy as you can close a bank account, you can close a brokerage account and open with someone else.
Now, this is important what Corey just said. And the reason I'm going to encourage everyone to take a moment and take a week, not a moment, take a week and practice this. It's a lot like Corey said when I learned to drive way back then. It was hilarious. We had a movie we would watch, and we had these simulators at the high school that we would get in. They were hilarious, but it had all this information on it, and it helped us practice before we got in the real thing. Well, the reason we want to practice in a simulator, it's a lot like a pilot, and that's why we call this a pilot error, is if I put in the wrong information and I communicate the wrong position, that can cost money. That can make a mistake. And so when people lose money simply by putting in the wrong information, we say, well, why'd you lose money? Well, my fundamental analysis was correct. My technical analysis was correct. And the position I was going to be in was supposed to be correct. But because I entered the wrong information, I got put in the wrong position. My knowledge here really helped me. But because when I went to get the cash flow to get that position, I had a pilot error. And so a pilot error is when you enter the wrong information on a ticket, okay? On a ticket. So with that said, now let's look at how we enter order. And there's two types of tickets. Some brokerages will combine the two. Here, Tesla, here up here, everything is on a dash. Here we have, some of it's here and some of it's here. Here it's all combined. And so it's the same thing here. Here we have a stock ticket, and here we have an options ticket. And they're going to ask for different information based on whether you're trading stock or whether you're trading options. Some brokerages combine these tickets, but I can promise you this. If you learn this information that's right here, you're going to be able to trade on any platform. Very basic, very easy to do. So let's start here. If we want to be in a long stock position, how's that going to work? Well, let's take a look here. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, let's start with the stock ticket here. That's a little too big, so let's take that down to make it up to size. And let's do all these positions. Now that we know the positions well, let's do them easy. Now, the cash position is really easy because you just have cash and there's not going to be any interaction. So that's very, very simple. So watch this. We're going to start with a long stock position. We're going to start with a stock ticket, and we're going to decide what we want to do to open the trade and what we want to do to close the trade. So here we go. Obviously, this guy over here has some stock that he wants us to buy. So he's put in an order to sell. So that means we need to put in an order to buy. So we've got our cash here in hand. We go to our asset column and we get our cash in our hand ready to make this exchange. Take it right from our asset column. Now we're ready to make a trade. This is going to be an opening trade to open a position. So we might say buy to open would be how we would say this. Now notice here they don't have buy to open, they just have buy. So I'm going to draw a little thing here that in this case that means buy to open. So I would put in my symbol X, Y, Z stock. I would put in how much I want to buy, 100 shares. We're going to do these later. We're just going to do for now. And I would select buy. Okay. We're going to talk about the rest of this information a little bit later. But right here, I have the basic action. What this does is it tells the brokerage that I want to be the buyer, and I'd like you to match me up with a seller. And so if you want to be the buyer and you want to get matched up with a seller, put in the name of the stock you want to buy, put in how many shares you want to buy, and you'd say, I want to buy. Anything you want to say about that, Corey? That would open this transaction.
Yeah, as simple as that. We're trading in our cash for the stock, and we just place a buy order for however many shares we want to buy. Perfect.
Okay, so I hand him my cash, and he hands me the stock, and I now put that in my asset column, and I'm in a long position. Now, what if I want to go back to cash? What if I want to go back to that cash position? Well, since I have stock, I need to sell to close this position. I got to sell my stock, sell to close. Well, to do that, I'm going to click the sell button right here. I'm going to put in the name of the stock that I have, XYZ. I'm going to put in how many shares I want to sell, and I say, all right, brokerage. You know, I go to my asset column, I get my stock out of it, and I just put my stock. Whoop. Let's see if I can get that to move back down. I get my stock ready to make this trade. Now, in this case, I am the seller, and this guy over here is going to be the buyer, and I would sell. So XYZ, I want to sell the stock, and I want to sell 100 shares of it thus far. Pretty simple, okay? After I do that, I'm no longer in a long stock position. I'm back in my cash position, okay? Now, let's say that I want to short some stock. Let's say that I want to short some stock, okay? So the brokerage would have some stock, okay? And I want to go and short stock. That's the position I want to be in. Notice here that now, what do I want to do? I don't want to buy to open. I would want to what, Corey?
You'd be selling to open.
I'm going to open this trade as a seller. So what I'm going to do is it's going to do this automatically. If I say that I want to short the stock right here, I say, I want to short XYZ. I want to short 100 shares, and I want to sell short. I missed my arrow here a little bit. So I want to sell to open this trade by shorting some stocks, sell short. So I go X, Y, Z. I have 100 shares, and I would select sell short. That would do two things. That would bring my stock into my hands right here, where now I'm ready to trade, where, let's be very clear, I am now going to be the seller of this stock. Where did I get it? I got it from the brokerage. This happens all in one step. And this guy is going to be the buyer now. And the moment I make this trade, right? The moment I make that trade, I'm now in a short position. I hope the stock goes down for sure. I hope it goes down. Okay, now I'm in this. What if I want to go back to just a total cash position? What if I don't want to be short stock? I want to just have a cash position. You know, I don't have any stock here, but I have made a promise. I still have this promise that is lingering to the brokerage, right, Corey?
That's right.
I have this promise lingering out here to return the stock shares that I borrowed and sold. So these are the stock shares that I borrowed and sold. I got to buy them back. So what I'm going to do to cover that promise is I'm going to buy to cover, which means I'm going to buy to close this transaction.
Closing the transaction, buying back or covering your short position is what they call it.
Yep. So to close this transaction, I must become a buyer. This guy says, hey, I'm willing to sell some stock. He's a seller. And so I give him the cash. I give him the cash. I get my stock back. I return it to the brokerage. And guess what? Now I'm back in a cash position. I've got out of everything I need to be in. I'm in a cash position. So that's good. Okay, let's get rid of that. And that's the options. I mean, that's the stock. Okay, that's the only thing. So you'll notice that these two commands right here, well, let's do it this way. This command and this command will open a trade, right? Will open a trade. Where this command and this command will close a trade. So I have buy to open, sell to close, sell to open, buy to close right here. Buy to open, I have buy to open, sell to close, sell to open, buy to close. And those are the four that you would need to know to buy and sell stock. Pretty simple. Okay, now
love it.
Now let's say I want to do an option. Well, that's much too big. So I'm going to bring up my ticket here. And now I've got the options tab open, so I'm in an option. And, you know, like we said, yours might look a little different, but this will be the same. So let's say I want to get out of a cash position right here. And I want to get long a call. What do you say, Corey? Long a call.
Love it.
So I say this. I say, okay, I want to do this on XYZ stock. Okay, XYZ stock. I want to buy an option on it. And since I'm going to do this, it's exactly this language almost every time. Buy to open is almost what you'll see every single time. They might use a different phrase to describe it, but not very often. So I'm going to buy to open. That would be the action I would use. Okay. And now I need to decide how many. So maybe one contract, which would be 100 shares. And I want to tell them whether I want to buy to open, a put, or a call. So I'm going to say I want to buy to open a call on XYZ stock. And I want this to be the one that expires, let's say, on, I don't know, maybe February 16th. And I have a strike of $160. And that's as far as we're going to go here. We're going to talk about this part later, okay? But this would communicate to the brokerage that I want to be a buyer. He needs to find me a seller, and I'm willing to buy. So this guy right here, let's get these right. This guy would have a call. The market maker says, all right, here's a call. I go to my asset column, I pull out my cash. I'm going to be the buyer, which means I have cash to buy with. This guy's going to be the seller. He got this call written from the market maker. And the moment we make this trade, we click review and send in the order. Now I'm in a long call position. This guy has cash. So I would buy to open. Now, what would I have to do to close, Corey?
Of course, if we bought to open, then we know we do the opposite, which is sell to close. So we're selling what we bought. And because we already have it in our assets, remember when you have it in your positions and you're closing it out, that's what to close is. You're closing out something that you have in your asset column, in your positions.
I want to close this position out and get back to a cash position. XYZ stock, one contract. Let's say it's the January 19th that I'd bought. I want to sell it. Maybe it's the 155 strike, whatever it was, and boom, I click that. That says, oh, you want to get this call that you had, and you want to trade it for some cash. So in this case, you are now the seller. Well, let's put this back down where it belongs here. In this case, we are now the seller, which means they need to find us a buyer, which they will. He's going to give us the cash. We'll give him the call. The moment that happens, okay, he's got the call, we got the cash. We're back in our cash position. Okay, next one is we got to learn how to short a call. Right here, we got to learn how to short a call. So we say, hey, Mr. Market Maker, I want to short a call. So he gets us the call we want to sell ready. Okay, and how do we communicate we want to do this? Well, we say, I want to sell
to open
this position. Sell to open, and that would be this one right here. I want to do this with XYZ stock. I want to do one contract. Maybe this time I want to do the April 20th, 160 strike. And now,
circle the call. Call there.
And I'm going to sell a call. And now I've made a promise. So this guy right here is now the buyer of the promise. I am now selling this promise, selling him this contract, and that's how we would open it. So the moment this happens, when I sell him this call and he gives me this cash, right? I get this cash. Now I am short. Notice again that I don't see a call here in my asset column, but what is lingering out there? I've got this cash here, but what's lingering out here? I have made a promise. I have promises that are out there lingering. So while I don't own any stock, I don't own any options, all I see is cash, I do know that what? I have made a promise that's lingering out here. I'm in a short position. If I want to get out of that, I need to buy it back. I need to get that call back if I want to get out of that commitment. So I need to buy to close. I got to buy and close this transaction. So what do? I say, all right, well, first thing is XYZ stock. I want this is a call we're talking about, and I want to what, Corey?
Yep, buy to close.
I want to buy to close this. It was the April 20th. What strike was it? 160, I think we said.
Yeah, something like that.
Something like that.
And then one contract.
And then I had a quantity of one contract. I hit review and send. Okay, that takes the cash from my account, and I get to buy back this call. Okay, the call then can be, I'm out of it, right? Now the market maker can get rid of that, and now I'm just in my cash position. That's it. So that I'm out of the contract, right? Totally out of the contract. The other thing that could happen is I could just wait for this to expire. I wouldn't even have to do anything. If I just want to keep that cash, this will go away on expiration. But if I don't want to wait till expiration, I got to get myself out of it. Okay. Last two is, let's get this all reorganized here. Okay. I want to buy a put, let's say. I want to buy a put. And so let's get my put. I've lost my put. This guy says I have a put for sale. I want to buy a put, so I get my cash here. I got cash ready to go. So I am now the buyer. This guy would be the seller. I say I want to do this on XYZ stock, one contract. And this time I want to buy a put. So I'd select put. And I would say I want to what, Corey?
Yep, buy to open because we don't have it already. We're opening a new trade, and in this case, we want to be the buyers.
I want to
So we're
buy to
buying to
open.
open.
I want to be the buyer. Maybe it's the February 16th, 155 strike that I want to buy. And I hit review and send. And now I would have the put and he would have the cash. I would put this in my asset column now, and I'm now in the long put position. If I want to get out of that position and go back to cash, I need to sell to close.
Yeah.
So I get my put here. I say, all right, I'm going to trade my little put sandwich here for a cash sandwich, and I say I want to be the buyer. And this guy,
seller.
or excuse me, thank you, Corey. I want to be the seller because we want to get out. I want to be the seller. I want to sell to close. Thank you. And this guy would be the what? The buyer.
Yeah.
And so how would I do that? Well, I'd say XYZ stock, one contract. This is a put option, and I want to sell to close out this position. I want to get out of it. And so what would I do? Well, that was...
I think it was the February 155 puts
155s.
or something like that. Yeah.
And I click that, and I get out of that position. I get out of that position. And then this transaction happens. Now I'm back in cash. Last one on the home stretch is I'm going to short the put right here. So I need a put. And so the market maker says, yeah, I'll let you write this. And I'm going to be the seller to open this position. This guy is going to be the buyer. And so I'm going to what, Corey?
Sell to open.
Going to sell to open right here. XYZ stock, whatever the name of the stock is, one contract. I want to sell these April 20th 165 strikes. I hit review and send.
And circle the put. Yep.
Oh, yep. Got to tell them what I'm doing. I'm circling the put here. And I say, all right, great. Here's your put. Give me the cash. And now I have cash. Now, I also have what up here? What have I made?
Yep, you've made a promise.
I have this promise that I'm lingering out here. I have a promise because I sold the put. And now I'm in a short position. If I want to get out of that position, since I sold to open, I need to do what to close?
Yep, buy to close.
I've got to buy to close. So XYZ stock, I need to buy to close this. It's going to be a put, one contract, April 165s. I get to buy them back. So now I would be I take this cash. In this case, I would be the buyer.
Yeah.
This guy would be the seller. If this put just expired, I'd be, I could just leave it be. I wouldn't have to get out. I can get out letting it expire. But if I want to get out before,
you wouldn't have to even place an order.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. You just let it expire.
But if I want to get out before, I'm going to have to buy this back. Now I no longer have given this guy this promise, right? So this can go away, and I'm back where I started, back in my cash position. Okay, so that's kind of fun to do. You can look at that over and over and over and over again. But I'll tell you, the only thing I'll say before we move on to this last section right here, the only thing I'm going to say on it is sometimes some brokerages will include a lot of other fancy trades. For example, a covered call, and we'll do this, so don't worry about this right now. But let's say I wanted to get in a covered call position, and I want to do a whole bunch of stuff at once. Let's say that I wanted to own some stock, but I also wanted to sell a call. So I wanted to have long stock, and I wanted to be short a call. I wanted to be in both those positions at the same time. Well, if I'm long stock and I'm short a call, right? Which means I sold this guy a call and I brought in some cash. This is called a covered call. And so as we get more elaborate, okay, and we'll go through one of the first ones we'll do is we're going to do a protective put, and then we're going to do a covered call. And so if I want to just set up all this in one fell swoop, I can select often in brokerages. They'll let me just select covered call, and it will put a default in all the stuff. XYZ stock. I want to have one contract, but then I'd also have 100 shares of the stock, and it would do all of them in one fell swoop. We're not going to get that complex right here. It's too much at one time. We're just going to stick with the one position at a time, the short call, the long call.
Yeah, but that is a nice feature that brokerages have, in that you're able to, if you want to do the whole covered call, you don't have to do it in two transactions. You can just combine them into one transaction. And so that, we won't get into it today, but it makes your life a whole lot easier, where you say, now I don't have to try to work both of these orders and make sure they both go through. You're just placing one order for the combination, and you're saying, I either want the whole thing to fill at my price, or I don't want any of it. And so that's the way it'll work. You'll either get the entire covered call, or you'll get none of it if it doesn't hit your price.
And this is called sometimes a spread or a position or a trade. And there could be an iron condor in here. There could be a butterfly in here. We're going to get into all those as we go along, and we'll never do a strategy ever without showing you the specific order entry. But we did think it'd be wise to do an overview of basic order entry so we understood the basics and you could begin practicing. That way, when we start getting to more elaborate strategies, it's not new to you. It's somewhere you've been before. Okay, so let's talk about this now, Corey. Let's talk about the order types. Okay, we didn't talk much about the order types. This will be the last section of this one right here before we do our summary. So an order type tells us how we want this order to be handled. So let's just start with, and it's going to be the same for stock or options. It's going to be the same. It won't matter. And we're going to talk about market limit, stop market, and stop limit orders. So we already know how to do, X, Y, Z. We already say maybe I want to buy to open something. And let's just say it's a stock for first off. Let's just say it's a stock. In fact, you know what? Just for kicks, let's do this. Let's see if I still have it. Let's get rid of all this stuff right here. And let's draw this with the actual ticket. I'll get rid of all my little cartoons here and bring them on over. And let's just talk specifically about stock first. See if I can snag that and what that might look like, because I can draw this graph just as easily as anything else. So let's say I had some Apple, or, let's just use Acme. XYZ works great. And let's say that we have XYZ in here and we want to buy it. And we want, let's say, I want to get rid of that. We have XYZ. We have 100 shares, and we want to buy the stock. So that's all taken care of. Now we have to communicate. If you remember when we went to eBay, they said, how much do you want to sell your basketball for? Or if I'm buying a basketball, I have to say, well, what am I willing to bid for it, right? I need to communicate to eBay as a buyer or seller what I'm buying and the prices, okay? So that's where the order type and this part come into play. So the first thing is a market order. And what a market order means is just buy it right away. Just buy the thing right away. So let's say the price was at $50 when I put this order in. Okay, it's at $50. The moment, if I just put a market order in here, it will not require me to specify a price of any kind. It'll just say buy it now, whatever it is. So market order means buy now, whatever price is there. I want to own this stock no matter what. I really don't care what the price is or how it might fluctuate in 1 or 2 seconds while this order gets filled. Buy it at market price right now. Anything you want to say about that?
Yeah, I mean, when you think about order prices, there's really three directions. We can buy now, we can buy lower, or we can buy higher. And so market orders are trade now, whatever it's going for. I want to buy now at current prices. You're not specifying price. You don't, when you send a market order, like Andy said, we don't get to put in a price because we're just saying whatever you can get me, that's what I want. So market orders are the buy now. But other ways you can buy lower or you can buy higher, right? And same thing with selling. We can sell now, we can sell high, we can sell low. And so that's all these orders are. If you think of it that way, it kind of simplifies it in your mind, I think.
Yeah, and we might say or better or lower in this case.
Yeah.
Or lower, okay? And so if, let's say I want to put a limit, on when I do this, okay? I don't want to just buy it at any price right now. I say, look, this is at $50 right now, but I want to buy it only at, what would you say, Corey?
At 49 or something.
Yeah, 49. So I might, I don't need an activation price on this. I say, look, buy this at $49 limit order, okay? So I say, all right, I want X, Y, Z stock. I want 100 shares. I want to buy it, but I want to put a limit. So I don't have an activation price here, but I say, I want to buy it at 49. Well, the stock is at 50 right now. So what that means is it going through the day, 51, 50, the moment that it hit what? 49 or lower,
Yep.
Or lower, the order would trigger. What that does is it controls my ability to determine at what price I buy the stock at, right?
Yep. Limit orders make perfect sense to people because you always think, well, I want to buy at a bargain. And that's what a limit order does. If the stock's trading at 50, my bargain price for buying is at 49 or 48. That's what a limit order does. It says, I don't want to buy now at market because market would get me 50. I think I can get in at a better price like 49. So that's where the limit order comes in.
So let's say the technical analysis looked like this, just to apply it. Let's say that we had big time support here at 49 over and over and over again. And I say, you know what? If it ever gets back down to 49, that's where I want to buy it at, is bouncing off this support right here. So I say, look, I want to buy at 49. Okay, that might be a way to look at it. But let's say this. Let's say that I had a chart that looked like this. This is called an ascending triangle, okay, that looked like this. And let's say this is 50 and this is 49. And I draw a little resistance line in here and say, boy, I'd really like to buy this if it what, Corey?
Broke through.
Broke through. And maybe I say, at 50, it's hit every time. But if it broke above 50, that would be a pretty cool way to do it. So what I might do there is, what order might I put in if I wanted to have that trigger?
So here's where the stop order comes in. Remember I said you can buy now, you can buy lower, which would be the limit, you can buy higher, and that's where a stop comes in. When you're buying, a stop goes above, and there's two types. There's a stop limit or a stop market. Now, one of those allows you to put in two prices. That's the stop limit. The stop market just allows you to put in one price. And the way I think of stop is like a trigger.
Yeah.
Stop is it triggers the other order. So it could trigger a market order, or the stop could trigger a limit order.
Mm-hmm.
So if we have resistance at 50, if I put a stop market, I only get to put in the price. I could put a price like $50.25 or something like that as my stop price, my activation price.
Yep.
But I don't get to put a limit, because what a stop market says is, as soon as my stop price is triggered, above, send a market order. So
Yeah.
remember, market orders don't specify price. So your trigger price, your stop price is above the resistance, right? 50.25 or something like that. You're getting in, you're activating a market order up above. That's what a stop market would do.
So
Yeah. So
let's do both of them right here, and I'll redraw
perfect.
this. It doesn't take a lot of time to redraw it. So let's do a stop market first. Well, that market just means buy now, so I wouldn't specify a certain price that I wanted at, but I would say when do I want this order to be live, to be activated, right? And so maybe I'd say, look, if it gets above 50, maybe $50.25, boom, I want in. No matter what, I want in because I think it's going to go like a rocket. And so I'd say I want to put in a stop market order, and the stop means I'll have an activation price, or sometimes they'll say it's your stop price. It depends. Like I say, it's like a dashboard, right? They'll ask for the same information, sometimes in different ways. So I have a stop price or an activation price, and in this case, I would put in $50.25, and then I hit review and send. That means that nothing would happen unless that stock went up, hit 50.25, and then boom, I would buy right then, right there, no matter what the price is. And in a high liquid stock, it'd probably be pretty close to what I asked for. Within reason. Stocks move quickly. But it's probably, the chance of it gapping up, it's there, but it's not likely. Okay, it's not likely. But let's say there was earnings coming up or something, right, where it might gap. So let's put in the same ascending triangle, or whatever pattern you want to look at, right? And we got 49, 48, 51, 52. Okay, what if I wanted, what would be a scenario that I would want to stop limit, Corey? What am I trying to achieve with a stop limit?
yeah, the stop limit is kind of preferable by a lot of traders in terms of making sure you get your price. So meaning the stop market, whenever you send a market order, you don't have as much control. And that's what I mean by,
Yep.
getting your price, getting your control. If I send a stop market, yes, I know it will be activated once the stock has gone up to 50.25,
Yeah.
but I don't know exactly what I'm going to get. If the market's moving fast, I might get filled at 50.50. I paid
Right.
25 cents more. A stop limit controls that. So it says I'm certain to only get filled in my window. So we still have our stop price, our activation price at 50.25. But then we're able to put in a second price that's the limit price. This says, okay, you want to get in once it hits 50.25, but what's your limit? How high are you willing to go above that? And maybe we'd put in a limit price of $50.50 or something like that, where we say, you know what? I'm willing to buy in this 25-cent window. But if this stock gaps up to $52 per share, that's a whole different equation. That's a whole different risk and reward, right?
Yep.
So the stop limit allows me to still get in on the breakout, but also have more control over the prices I'm willing to pay. And so the stop limit is the only one that'll actually have you put in two prices: the stop price plus the limit beyond that. And
Yep.
that's a good example of it.
It's fantastic. So so that would be a stop limit. Okay. That way, if it gapped clear up here, it wouldn't send in the order because, yeah, it triggered because it got to my 50.25, but because it went up here to 53, I says, well, gee, that's a lot more than I wanted to spend. So it creates a window of where I'm going to buy the stock at. So
Yeah, and in that example of the stocks up there at 53, your order is activated, but it will only fill if that stock comes back down to 50.50 or less, right? You've put a
correct.
limit, you've put a cap how high you're willing to go. Perfect.
Can you see why we would recommend that you practice these a little bit? Everyone wants to go so fast and to wax on and wax off, and just practice these a little bit for a week or so. Put in 3 or 4 a day. Learn to get in, learn to get out. So to review, the market means, if we put a buy in here, it means buy now, right away. We don't care about price. We're just saying buy right now. Okay. The limit order means buy at my set price or better. And in this case, it'd be cheaper, right? Because we're in a buy order. Okay. The next one, the stop limit, let's put that in, I don't know, we'll put it in black. The stop limit says buy when the price hits X, right? Some set price, and just buy it right then. Okay, buy right then.
Well,
or stop
the
market.
Stop limit.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's
The stop limit would be buy when the price hits that price, and only up to.
I got to edit that and do that over. That's too big of a mistake.
No worries.
Okay, so let's review. So we have stop market. That means just buy now with no regard to price. Buy right now. Okay, let's put exclamation points on that, not question marks. Buy now, right away. Okay, the stop limit means buy only at, and what should we call this? My set price, my favorite price, a set price.
My price or better. Yeah, exactly.
Or in this case, lower, right? Or better, okay? Now, a stop limit, let's do stop market next because it's a better order. Stop market means buy at any price when the price hits a certain one. So watch this. We say buy when, notice I'm saying not at, I'm saying when. That's a big difference. Buy when the price hits, we'll call it X. So notice the difference between buying at a price and buying when a price. If I say buy only at my price or better, that's very specific, right? Only buy it at a certain price. Buy now means just right now I want on the stock. A stop market order means buy when the price hits X. And if it changes a little bit, between my order and some market movement, I'm still okay with it. But notice the difference, buying at a price and buying when it hits something. And then the stop limit is probably the most control of any, that says buy first when the price hits a certain number, X, and only buy at, notice the two are combined here, at a set price or better. So this one gives you the most control, or better. And so the way to really understand that is the idea of when and at. Wouldn't you say, Corey? When and at. One just says, look, I don't care when I get it. I just want it now, and I don't even care what price I get it at. Just buy the thing at whatever. The next one says, well, you can buy it whenever it's available, okay? Now, later, whenever. You can buy it, but only buy it at a set price or better. Okay, this one says, look, I don't really care what price I get in at, but as a technical analyst, when the price hits a certain one that I like technically, when the price hits that, just get me in. Just get me in right, but only get me in when it hits this price. And then the last one gives you the best of both worlds. It says, look, when the price hit X, buy it right then, only if you can buy it at this set price or better. And so that's with buying, okay? Now the same...
Yeah, and remember the three directions, if you think about them, buy now, buy lower, which would be, buy now would be market, buy lower would be limit, buy higher would be one of our two stop choices. Do we want to buy once it triggers that higher price at the market, or do we want to put a limit once it triggers that higher price? You're going to use one of the two stop order types, either a stop limit or a stop market. So you have those those three directions of control. Now you know how I can buy now, I could buy lower, or I could even buy higher in one of two methods.
And now don't panic about this. Review it and practice it is better. Practice is better than panic. Practice is better than panic. And so we're going to go through, this order entry with every single option strategy we show. Now, let's say that we wanted to do a sell. Okay, let's say we want to do a sell. Again, we'd say X, Y, Z, 100 shares, however many, and we'd have to make the same decisions on when we want to sell. Well, they're not going to change. Market means get me out right now. Okay, just get me out. The market's falling to pieces. I just don't want to be in this thing. I just got to get the cash right now. Don't be picky with it. Just get me out, right? But a limit order, let's see if I can draw this well. Whoop, I just totally didn't. That's all right. Market, a limit order. Look at that, I recovered. That's called a save, man. A limit order means, sell, but only at, a set price or higher.
Or higher or better. Yeah. When you're selling, you want to sell high. So it just flips it around. Whereas a limit order when you're buying says I'm willing to buy at my price or less. A sell order says at my price or higher. And that makes sense to people in terms of limit orders. Like I said, those are the easy ones to think about in your mind, because that's the way you buy and sell things on a day-to-day basis. It's very common that you would want to, if you're going into a car dealership, you try to buy at your price or less, and the car dealer is trying to sell at his price or higher. That's the negotiation. So that's what limit orders do. In fact, they're the most common order type that people use. You'll use limit orders often.
If you decide to sell at market, it's not even going to ask you to put a price or an activation price in because you're not being picky, right? This is at, and this is when, right? When it hits here, at this price. And so these give you controls of saying, I don't care where it's at, and I don't care when you do it. Just do it now, right? Do it right now. Or you can say, yeah, I really care at what price you do it at, but I don't care when. Or one says, I care a lot. I care about when you do it, and I care at what price you do it. And so those are the three things that can happen. Now, if I go with the stop market, let's skip down again with stop market. Let's put it in, we'll put it in black. If I go with stop market, what that means is sell. What word am I going to use? When.
Yep.
So maybe, and this would be my favorite one to get out, is I'd say, look, I bought it at 50 maybe, and if it hits 49, just sell. And I'm not going to be picky about the price. Just get me the heck out of here. And that's probably a better order for exit, because if I get picky and start putting in stop limits, saying, well, sell when I get a little too picky, then that's not going to be good. So I like selling when something happens, when price, in this case, hits, we'll call it 49. So we do put on there, I wouldn't worry about my at price because I just want out, right?
Yep. And you wouldn't be able to with the stop market. You just put in the one price, and that's your stop price. And what you referenced there is a stop loss, right? You're saying, I bought the stock at 50. I want to stop this trade and get out if it goes down to 49. Some brokerages, instead of calling it a stop market, they'll even call it a stop loss. But it means the same thing. Sell stops, go below. And they say, I can either sell it at the market, or what you're showing, sell when it hits 49, and only if I can get my price or better.
And in this case, you can see where it'd be dangerous, because if I say 49 or even 48, what if it drops down to 47? Well, then it wouldn't get me, get me in. So maybe what I do is I say, look, I probably would not use that order here at all, but maybe I'd say something like, okay, sell when it hits 49 and do it at 50 or better.
Or 48.
Excuse me,
48 or better.
48 or better. So as it goes down, it would get triggered, and it would sell anywhere within this window. But if it hit 48, it would then say, nope, well, now I'm in, and I'm in trouble. So that prevents me from selling at a price that's really, really, really low, but it might not get me out if I get that picky.
Yeah, and so that's a great point where a lot of traders on their protective orders, they'll use stop markets because they'll say, look, once I want to get out, once it's not working, I just want to be out of this trade. If you're getting into something and you wanted more control, that's where the stop limit comes in. So,
Yep.
In this case, if you, like you said, the stop limit says we have a stop price at 49 and our limit at 48. What we're telling the market is the shares are worth 50 right now in the market. I don't want to sell. I want to stay in. But if it goes to 49, it's going to trigger my activation. I'm going to say my analysis was off. I want to get out of this and I'm ready to be done. But if I put a 48 limit, now I'm telling the market, but I'm only willing to sell at 48 or higher. So what I've done is created a $1 window that I'm willing to sell in. But
Yep.
if the stock were to gap down to 45, our order would not be triggered. We'd still be in the trade.
Yeah.
And so from a protective standpoint, there's differences of opinion on what type of order, but that's basically the control. We can control the price, or we can just say, if it hits this price, get me out at market, and I'll accept whatever the price is.
You can see why we did it the way it did, because this is in order to get me in, and this is in order to get me out, where this is in order to get me into a position, and this is in order to get me out. So we have to be very clear on the action to help know what type of order type we want to put in. Let's say that I want to get in and I want to sell short. In other words, this is a order to get in. It's a sell to open an order. So let's say the stock is in a descending triangle like this, and I say, gee, if it has the potential to go way, way down, I want to get in. Well, there's a couple ways I could do that. I could say, do it now. Do it now. Sell short now. Just give me in a short position. I'm not going to be picky. I could say, hey, I want to do this, but I want to do it with a limit. So I would say short this stock, but I would only short it at, what would you say, what price? What would you say looking at that chart?
Maybe if you're convinced it's going down, maybe you are trying to get in on one of those little bounces.
Yeah.
So a limit order would be to maybe short it at 52 up there because you really think it's going to break down
here,
and you're kind of getting in it. Yeah, you're getting in ahead of time. So a limit order would allow you to get in at your price or higher, and that would be to use probably one of those bounces to short it.
So I say I want to do it at 52 or what? Or higher.
Or higher, yeah. Or better is what it, yep.
Because in the case of a short, better would be higher. The higher you get in, the better off you are, right? Buy low and sell high. Well, since I'm selling, I would like to sell as high as possible. So 50 or higher. So better would be higher. Okay, let's do the stop market order. Okay, maybe I'd say, look, I'd rather buy it. I'd rather short it as it broke down below this support, right, Corey? I'm in a descending triangle. So I say, look, if it hits $49.50, I want to be there. So it wouldn't ask me for a pickiness price. I would say, look, short when, not at. I would short when the stock is at 49.50. End of story. Just get me in. It hits 49.50. I want to be in for the ride here. Okay. And then finally, if you look at the stop limit, I'm going to be very picky. I'm going to say, we'll short it at when it hits
when 49.50. Yeah.
So short it when it hits 49.50 plus, and short it only if I can get
at 49 or something like that.
49 or better, right? And so right here I might put in 49. Here I'd put in $49.50. Make that as clear as mud there. $49.50. And I'd say, look, short it at 49 or better. So that would give me this little window, for me to act. It would be activated here, but if it went below 49, I wouldn't get in the order because I want it at 49 or better. Okay.
Perfect.
Finally, we got buy to cover, and this is the same thing. Let's say I'm short, and I saw this descending triangle here, and maybe I say, look, if it gets back above this first little part right here, I want to get out, right? So it's the same thing. I'd say, look, I want to buy to cover on XYZ stock, 100 shares. And to buy to cover, I could do a market. You know what I'm going to say? What does that mean? Do it now. Okay, that just means get me out, whatever it is. I could do a limit, okay, which just says buy back or buy to cover, right? Buy to cover my promise. And, let's say this is 50. I got in, it got down here, maybe I got in at 49.50. Well, if it gets up here to $50.50, let's say, that's enough, right? Would you say so, Corey?
Well, so in the buy to cover limit, we'd be targeting that lower price. So on your perfect example, we'd be putting maybe 47, would you say? Buy to cover at 47 or something like that. And that says if it gets down there to 47, I want to buy back those shares. And notice that would be a profitable trade in this case, where you shorted higher and you bought back lower.
Bought back lower. In the case of a target, right? In the case of a target.
Yep.
Another thing to think about is are you getting out because you've hit a target, or are you getting out because you're losing, right? And you could put in a limit order either way, if it's coming. Now watch. Let's do the stop market next. And that means buy to cover. And what word am I going to use? Am I going to use at or when? Since it's a
it would
stop
be
market.
When.
That's right. When it hits, and
maybe
if I'm
51 or something like that, up above.
If I've got resistance here at 51, and I say, look, if it breaks through that, it could be off to the races. I want to be out here. So I say, look, buy to cover when it hits 51. Wouldn't ask me for pickiness. It just say, when do you want to do it? When do you want to activate? Well, I want to do it when the stock is at $51. And then finally, let's see, we got blue as our stop limit. And we say, look, we want to buy to cover when it hits 51. But also at, what would you say?
51 or 52 maybe, or something like that. It's a window.
52 or better. So then we put a 52 in this price. Now, again, the way to do this is just practice, review your review. We're not going to do trailing stop in this one because we'll do those in some other examples. But what a trailing stop is like a ratchet. I don't even know how to spell ratchet. How do you spell ratchet? Like a ratchet wrench.
RATCHET, I believe.
It's like a ratchet wrench. So what that means is let's say I have an entry price to buy, I have a target up here, and I have an exit down here. So I would start with my entry, my target, let's put that in green maybe, and then my exit. And that would be it, okay? But as the stock moved up, let's say the stock moved up, what I would do is see the distance of my exit is this far. Well, what I do is then I'd move my exit up automatically to where I had the same amount. You can do this by percentage or by money. And so if the stock kept going up, well, guess what? This exit would then ratchet up a little more. And it would go up, and it might even go through my target. And I say, you know what? I thought I might sell at this target, but you know what? It's going so well, I think I'll just move my stop up here and let the stock continue to climb and climb and climb and climb. And as it climbs, it automatically moves the price at which I want to sell at. And then finally, when the stock has a pullback, then I would sell. Okay, we're not going to do that one right here, right now. You can certainly play around with it and practice it, but those are that. And we really don't need to spend a lot of time, Corey, on the options, because guess what? This stuff does not change. It's the same for stock as for options. The only difference is this is going to be the price of the option instead of the stock. This would be your what? Your premium.
Your premium price.
So
yep,
whether
exactly
you're doing it with stock or whether you're doing it with option, it's the same. Okay, it's the same. Now watch this. The last thing we're going to talk about is how long do you want this order to be good for? If you put in day, that means that order will be out there and those instructions are good for the day. If you put in GTC, that says, hey, these instructions are good to go, good till I cancel. And I guess it should be good until I cancel, right? But it's good till cancel, okay? And that means it'll stay in there today, tomorrow, the next day, until you pull it off. So that's order entry.
So a lot of traders on that point, a lot of traders will put in their entry orders as day orders only.
Yeah.
But they'll put in their protective orders as good till canceled. And that makes sense. If I'm trying to get into something, if it doesn't fill today for all of today, well, then it'll cancel immediately, automatically. And then I can reassess and decide whether I want to try to get into that position tomorrow. When I have an order already on and I have a position and I want protection, that's usually where we put good till canceled. That way, our protective order is out there day after day after day. We don't have to remember to put it on every single day. It's just automatic. It's out there.
Yep, that's it. So in almost all cases, you'll have an opportunity to review and send. In advanced platforms, for example, in Thinkorswim, you can actually set it up to where, and this is more for day traders, like day traders often are just really worried about speed. And so they don't want to take the time to review their order first. I've always, I can't think of a time where I didn't want to review my order first. So when you hit review, it'll bring up a ticket that reviews everything. It says, okay, and it just basically will give you this information back, but it will list your risk, it will list your reward, possibilities, all that stuff. And then you say, yes, I want to send it. But if day traders can often find a platform that they can remove that review step and just send it, I don't recommend that for new traders. I don't even recommend it when you're paper trading. It's just good to click it, review the order, make sure it's the right one. That cuts down on pilot error. Anything else you want to say on this idea, Corey?
No, I think we've covered it. The one point that I want to emphasize that I didn't clarify earlier was I'm always long peanut butter and honey. I'm short bologna. So
really? I was trying to pawn my bologna off. I was trying to pawn. I hopefully there's better volume and there'd be someone else that'd be willing to sell their peanut butter and honey.
Step in there and
I'm tired of that bologna, man. I mean, I know Oscar Mayer's nice, but I'll go with the peanut. I'll go with little. Do you want Skippy, or do you want Jif Chunky or Creamy? What are you really after there, bud?
I like them both, but I don't mind some chunks in there.
You don't mind the chunky? I'm short the chunky. I'm long the creamy for sure. So hopefully you can keep that in mind. That's really all we're doing is describing what kind of sandwich we want to trade, when we want to trade it, and what price, at and when. And I really like everyone learning that idea is that market means, if you really want to understand the order type, market means now, no matter what. Limit means I'm going to do it at a certain price. I'm going to be picky. And stop limit means, or stop market means when, and stop limit means when and at. So you have now, you have at, you have when, and then you have when and at a certain price. And those are your four choices with those four there. I want to do it right now. I only want to do it at this price or better. I only want to do it at this price or better when the stock hits a certain point. I just want to do it when the stock hits a certain point. And that's really, when you understand those four, it gives you a lot more freedom and control over when you're buying and when you're selling stuff. So study this, and, it'd be a great quiz to say, all right, the more you fill these out, the more you'll understand them, the better you'll get, right? Oh, this is an opening trade. This is an opening trade. These are closing trades. Oh, here's my expiration. This is simply to help us communicate to the brokerage what we want to do. Practice would be the real key here with order entry. So let's do our review, our summary. That's the most detailed I've ever gotten on order entry ever. And so, it should be fun. Only 6 real positions if you take out that cash position. You got long stock, short stock, long call, short call, long put, short put. Those make up the bases of every trade we will do. Sometimes we'll do a combination of several of them and give a name to it, but you'll be able to take every trade we do, break it up into six of the, one or more of those 6 components. The better you understand the positions, the easier order entry becomes. That's why we spent so much time talking about the positions and reviewing what they looked like, kind of behind the scenes. You get to decide your entry, your exit, your price, your quantity, everything. You have control over that. Pilot errors are avoided with paper trading, and so you don't want to put in the wrong information. Just remember, different platforms use, different types of tickets. When you're talking about stocks or options, but the information will be the same. Okay, anything you want to add to order entry, Corey?
No, that was awesome stuff.
Really good stuff.
I think it's the best lesson I've ever been a part of as far as order entry. Really great stuff. So nicely done.
Really fun. Thank you, Corey, and thank you for joining Corey and I, and we'll see you in the next session.